Hello.
These work? This is awesome.
This is great. Perfect. So, perfect timing. Post-lunch White Castle. There we go.
That's right. That's the way to do it.
Again, my name is Brad Brief. I'm with Basis. Lee had given you an overview a little bit earlier in terms of our company and what we do. I did want to say from a company that focuses in terms of working with brands and helping them to amplify, that we feel very fortunate to be a part of this whole summit. I know it's the first one. I hope there's many more. I wanted to thank Shipyard as well for putting this on, with it, in addition to Brand Innovators. So with that, Jamie, I guess congratulations in order. You told me 25 years now with White Castle. Can you tell us a little more about your career path getting in there?
Yeah, it's an honor to be a keeper of the Crave at White Castle. So I've been there, it'll be 25 years September 8th, but it goes by in a blink. And the best part about it is looking ahead to all that's next. And I thought to kick us off, it might be fun to add a little sizzle post-lunch. So we've got a sizzle reel, so I think we're going to play that. That's a tone setter, and that will kind of lead us into Brad's tough questions, give me more time to think about answers, too.
Yeah, ain't tryna be cool like you. Wobbling around in your high heel shoes, I'm clumsy. Made friends with the floor. 2 for 1, you know what buy for. And 2 left feet, you know I always drop. First thing a girl did was a bop on the whole cake and a cherry on top. Shook up the bottom, made a good girl pop. I'm a boss. I'm a and a boss. I'ma shine like glass. I'm a boss. I'm a and a boss. I'ma shine like glass. I'm a boss. I'm a and a boss. I'ma shine like glass. I'm a boss. I'm a boss. I'ma shine like glass. On the after, you've been the before. I've been the stallion, you've been the seahorse. Don't need a report, don't need a press run. All of my bad pics been all my best ones. I wear the hat and I wear the pants. I am advanced, so I get advanced. And I do my dance and cancel the plans. Said, boo, don't be mad, cause you had a chance. Yeah, said I took it and I ran for it. I win it, then I stand on it. Money on the floor when we dance on it. Shine bright when I put a tan on it. Said I took it and I ran for it. I win it, then I stand on it. Money on the floor when we dance on it. Shine bright when I put a tan on it. I'm a boss. I'm a boss. I'ma shine like glass. I'm a boss. I'm a boss. I'ma shine like glass. I'm a boss, I'ma shine like glass. I'm a boss. I'm a boss, I'ma shine like glass. I'm a boss. I'm a boss, I'ma shine like glass. I'm a boss. I'm a boss, I'ma shine like glass. I'm a boss. I'm a boss, I'ma shine like glass. I'm a boss. I'm a boss, I'ma shine like glass. I'm a boss. I'm a boss, I'ma shine like glass. I'm a boss. I'm a boss, I'ma shine like glass. I'm a boss. I'm a boss, I'ma shine like glass.
So we ended with Long Live Sliders, and I just want to let everybody know there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow because Molly and team have these to hand out to you. They're good for 3 free sliders. Yeah, so.
Good deal. Come bearing gifts, which is great. And speaking of sliders, so recently White Castle, and congratulations, I guess, on this as well, recently sold the 29 billionth slider. So to put that in perspective, if you stacked all those sliders on top of each other, it would be 7 Mount Everests. So to provide a little perspective on it with it. How have you, and we talked about it, it's a brand with so much brand love in that, but how have you evolved it over time and stayed so relevant in terms of, amongst different demographics?
I think in terms of staying relevant, it's really important to not fall in love with your past. To definitely know that foundation matters and that the essence of the brand comes from someplace really important. And it's not something we dream up in our heads. We learn about the essence of our brand from asking our customers good questions, listening intently to what they tell us, and then responding accordingly. And that evolves over time. Hopefully it's always changing. So it's really fun to celebrate the great milestones. It's even more fun to plan to look ahead to what's next and how we're going to keep that Crave going strong.
Yeah, especially this day and age as media marketing are evolving so much. And it was interesting in terms of when we had our conversation and we were talking about, and a lot of times we'll go, okay, there's Gen Z and millennials, and you were talking about levels of, in terms of just how passionate fans were about craving. Can you talk a little about that and just in terms of the different like passion level of your fans?
We live in such an age of incredible information. We have so much knowledge at our fingertips, and we all know this. We can go deep on every demographic profile and every psychographic profile. And what we've tried to do is actually bring a little bit of simplification and elegance in terms of how we're thinking of the world, Brad. So we're thinking of it as the Crave Continuum. And on one end of that continuum, you have the Crave Cautious. They're not always nice to us. Even now and then, they say things that aren't kind. But on the other end, thank goodness, we have the Crave Committed. And those are the people who are the most ardent fans. They're beyond our ambassadors. They're going to follow us over the hill into the drive-thru, into the freezer aisle. They're in our Hall of Fame. They're the ones who make their reservations early for Valentine's Day. Not too late to start, folks. But the other thing we've realized is in that mix, there's the Crave Casual and the Crave Curious. And so we're really investing a lot to understand what are the cues there and how are they a little bit different. So the conversations we have with each of our individuals, individual potential cravers, is something that's meaningful to them, getting them the right messages, the right time, and the right place.
Yeah, and I know you've talked a lot about innovation and different, product innovation, and then also store innovations. Can you talk a little bit about in terms of you got, new drive-throughs and new technology coming from a store level? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's so important. So we have 350 restaurants. So some of our competitors have a few more restaurants than we have. But our thought is if we're the best we can be in every single trade area where we have a restaurant, that's how we connect with each customer. What's really powerful for us is we're in all 50 states with our retail presence. So we have a CPG brand that has continued to grow magnificently over the years. So whether it's morning, noon, or night, and whether you're coming in to pick up and carry out or you're walking down to your kitchen at 2 a.m., the Castle's got you covered. One of the big investments we're making these days is in the restaurant itself because it has to be fresh. And so we're doing re-imaging. We'll have 30 Castles in 2024 that beyond a fresh coat of paint and looking brighter and more inviting, we'll have a friendlier dining room. And then in the kitchen, we're really focused on what can we do for our team members. So the most important, coolest thing in that whole sizzle reel was that little logo that came up that said certified as a great place to work. And we're so fortunate because for the past 3 years, we're the only fast food restaurant brand, food manufacturer who's been on that list as a great place to work. And so that's based on 10,000 team members and how we engage with them every day. What they've told us is the most important thing we can do, give them tools that empower them. So that takes the scary out of technology and makes it something that makes it easier to do our jobs. So we have Flippy on the fryer. It's a robot arm. And Flippy started in Indiana, in just Maryville, Indiana, about 2.5 years ago. Hasn't missed a day of work. And does a magnificent job with your chicken rings, your cheese sticks, French fries. And then we have Julia, which is our smart drive-through experience. And that's AI powered, but I think it sounds better to say smart drive-through, so we're going to stick with that. But that has really freed up the team members who can listen in and they can jump in and help complete an order if somebody asks for help. But it's allowed us to concentrate on order accuracy. Having that heart for hospitality, we think, makes a difference to people still. We haven't lost one person because of our investment in technology. At some point in our 102 years, we changed the cash registers and made those better. At some point with our partnership with Coca-Cola, we put in the freestyle machines so that could be better. Similarly, we're making these investments in technology to make it a better place to work.
You brought up an interesting point, too, in terms of the employee retention and overall, we were talking about the overall culture there with it. Can you talk about from marketers, because earlier in the conference, too, there was some discussion around selling in different concepts, ideas, marketing brand love to key shareholders. And I know you talk about being kind of a benefit in terms of being a family-owned company that's all on the same page. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, thanks, Brad. I think family-owned is something that's more than just a label. It's part of how we think. It's part of who we are. Along the way, the big benefit we believe that it provides us is the chance to make decisions over the long haul, that we don't have to worry necessarily about what an analyst somewhere who's never put our sandwiches into his or her microwave or never been to the Castle drive-thru says about us. So for us, it's that freedom to have shared culture. So our vision's really, we think, elegant, and we don't just put it on a wall and put it on a poster. We try to live it. Feed the souls of craver generations everywhere. And to us, that means presence in terms of distribution, but it also means being alive to those moments where you can connect and make a difference. And we're fortunate. We're privately held. We have an independent board of directors. John Lowe is one of our board members, and we're so grateful for John and his colleagues who give us great advice and great counsel and challenge us. So we have that accountability built in terms of trying to get better every day, and at the same time have the benefit of, well, maybe that's a 2-year project, not a 2-month project.
Yeah, when we talked, you talked about that in terms of the benefit, also of product innovation, and you tell us, you were talking about in terms of what COVID and kind of some ideal timing with product innovation and basically everybody on this board and how that led to success at going into the grocery store level.
Really interesting because, of course, none of us knew what to expect. I know for me, it's still hard to talk about because we all went through a lot. It was really, really hard for our team members in the manufacturing plants. So for our frozen food division, we own and operate those on our own. It was really hard for the team members in the restaurants. One of the things that happened that was unexpected was how many people tried the frozen food for the first time. Coincidentally, as Brad alluded to, we had just redid the packaging. We have a corporate chef who thought, we should probably update those reheating instructions. They've been the same since 1992. And so they were fine. It was a good sandwich. But just by putting the study to it a little bit, it tastes even closer to the drive-through if you let it sit in the fridge overnight, and then you can slack it and put it in the microwave, add a pickle, like an exclamation point of joy, and it's as close to the drive-thru as you can get. But coincidentally, that packaging change happened as people were buying and trying for the first time. So we didn't plan that, but it was some good fortune. And as a result, the retail side of our business really grew dramatically to the point where we recently completed doubling the size of our biggest frozen food plant in Vandalia. So we went from 75,000 square feet to 150,000 square feet. And friends, that's a lot of sliders. It's mildly hypnotic when you watch them going down the line.
Yeah, because what you're saying is up like 30% of the business now? Is that level?
Yeah, and that frozen side of our business, the CPG part of our business, sounds better than frozen. The CPG side of our business represents 30% of sales and a bigger percent of profit. So it's continued to grow and gives us presence in all 50 states. And at the same time, the restaurants are thriving and hitting the mark as well.
That's great. And another thing that has been discussed quite a bit here, we talk about brand love and that, is really understanding the consumer journey. And you have had some great insights into that in terms of embracing the White Castle open 24 hours and understanding the consumer and Night Castle and that. Can you talk a little more about that aspect of brand love and marketing?
Yeah, a lot of the brand love that started for White Castle might have been after midnight along the way. And, from the 1920s, we've been open 24 hours. And so we realized that when the sun goes down, White Castle becomes Night Castle. And so we've had a lot of fun with that in terms of inviting more people to come and visit. And as well, it's our thought is that if you have a microwave, you have a White Castle because of our presence in the freezer aisle. And so we've encouraged some fun along those lines too. I think we're all aching for things that bring us together and things that give us shared experience. And in some small way, we hope to be able to provide that whenever possible.
No, it's very interesting. Another thing that's come up in terms of a lot of these discussions here is in terms of brand control. And the nice thing, you have such a passionate fan base and the Crave Continuum, and the Crave Hall of Fame. How do you manage in terms of, kind of embracing so much to your audience and to your fans in terms of them kind of getting the message out there and not, having to have complete control?
I think part of it is that you enter into it as a partnership. So it's not just about working with influencers. It's about making it easy for people to have fun and remembering why you exist. And so that whole idea of the vision, feed the souls of craver generations everywhere, our mission is to create memorable moments every day. And to a person, if you were to bump into a person from one of the White Castle restaurants and you ask the general manager, what's the White Castle mission? They would rattle it off and know instantly, why we're there each day. We're really fortunate. We talked about loyalty a moment ago, but with our general managers, the average time a general manager at White Castle has been with us is 21 years. So they not only know their neighborhood and their customers, they know their team members, and they know who's strong on the register, they know who's better making sliders. So they're able to put the right people in the right places, and that's been really empowering and good for us as well. But we think part of it is not being too uptight. We try not to take ourselves super seriously. After all, it's a 2-inch square, delicious burger, 100% beef. Should get that in there too. But I think, if you're worried about something going wrong, it probably will. And you can learn from mistakes as much as you can learn from successes. And thankfully, we've got a leader, our fourth generation family member, Lisa Ingram, who's our CEO, who has encouraged us in her time as CEO to try more things, to learn from that, and to apply the learning in ways that make us better. I'll be honest, we had a culture at certain points. It's always been good. But because so many people stay for so long, you come up with an idea and they say, we tried that back in '81. And the world's changed around us, so we have permission to try new things.
Yeah, you are in a unique position in terms of you have a brand that has kind of iconic brand love, but then you also have a product that has iconic brand love. How do you balance that as you're rolling out new products to market so that they're not, basically, they're never going to get away with a slider, but if it's White Castle and sliders and communicating other messages too?
Yeah, that's a great question in terms of that brand love and how do you nurture it and keep it fresh. At the same time, if we were to start messing around with the core, that base of all metaphysics or cravaphysics is that original slider. People love that sandwich, and it comes in a 10-sack, and you can get it in a Crave clutch of 20 or a Crave case of 30. You can even get it in a Crave crate if you're having a party. But what we've learned from a menu innovation point of view is that people also love variety. So our guiding principles are around that same craveability quotient to make sure that the distinctive taste really comes through. So right now you can get buffalo or ranch chicken rings. You can also enjoy, our one-of-a-kind cheese sticks. And so I think for us it's been around keeping it distinctive and fun and doing, candidly, a lot of good testing. It's easier than ever to test and learn and find out along the way what's likely to be a hit. We're just sneak preview, because we're here among friends, the cheesy ring debuts at White Castle on Sunday, and French toast sliders. So we've been working on that one for a while. If you live in Cincinnati, you might have already tried it. Now it's going to be everywhere. So French toast sliders for breakfast on Monday.
That sounded good, even coming out of lunch. So that's, the fast food industry changing all the time, extremely competitive. And that, what do you see as the biggest innovations and trends as you look at this over the next, year to 5 years?
I think both for our CPG business in the grocery aisle and at the restaurants, the competitive stakes are high. The players are big, the budgets are huge, and I think so much of what we've started to see is around personalization, around a more intimate understanding of that shopper journey and what it's like. But I think we're going to see new levels of focus on satisfaction. Think of your drive-through experience. And, there's a tolerance zone at the drive-through because there's a convenience there. But so often, that is something you enter with trepidation. And you hope for the best, but you presume it might not be great. And so I think there's going to be a lot of effort and energy around how do you take the pain out of the experience. On the restaurant side of the business, delivery is huge. I mean, certainly during lockdown in that time frame, it grew dramatically. It hasn't gone backwards. It's continued to grow. So we see that model, and more players are trying to get that into their own app because the service fees with the third-party delivery partners, who are great, service fees are really high. So I think there's a lot of shakeout that's going to happen. I think the thing that will characterize all of it is how do you elevate consumer experience so those things that are barriers become bridges to a better place.
Yeah, speaking of consumer experiences, and obviously the biggest push for kind of content and new content and video content, and you really leaned into that in terms of from a video perspective. Can you talk about in terms of your mix of White Castle created videos versus user created videos and the channels and outlets? Because I know, TikTok obviously is a big point of discussion with it, but needing a content strategy with it, YouTube and needing a content strategy, and just how you're approaching that overall.
First, I have to ask, is anybody here from Hot Pockets or McDonald's? Okay. Okay.
Hot Pockets is
then
left the
I can
building.
be really candid. I always do a quick competitive scan before I bare my soul, but Brad's asking me these tough questions. So I think for us, it's been about really being knowledgeable as best we can with smaller budgets, about making every penny count, but looking at the creative power of each platform and not trying to restrain that power, but rather unleash it and invest in it the right way. If you're on TikTok, you don't want to be overproduced. You want to really speak to the people who are in the environment, and you have to resist. We believe we have to resist the urge as a client to get every single one of our copy points in there because it makes us feel better. In case somebody asks us a question about, you didn't mention the new package, it's okay. We're telling stories and trying to meet people in different places, different ways. It should be symphonic and smart and fun. And we have a line that we rely on and use in our marketing team, and is every headline should be a game the reader wins. So there needs to be an emotional reward that we pack into everything we share and do.
No, that's great. I did want to open it up to any other questions. I know we're probably approaching in time, but.
Question for you. So one of the challenges right now is offering a food option that is a good value without compromising taste. And I feel like White Castle has done a good job of doing that. Could you maybe go into a little bit more on how you're keeping those consumers to your core and how you continue to grow that?
Yeah, great question is, how do you offer a food option that's of value without compromising on great taste? And I think for us, it's about really understanding the essence of why people crave White Castle. So it's always been 100% beef. A steam grilled on a bed of onions, served on a bakery fresh bun in bakeries that we own and operate. So I think for us, that quality quotient is really important, and being attentive as well to the fact that you want to provide. We're fortunate because the portion size of a White Castle is smaller, so it's shareable. It's got portability built in. We don't have sides; we have nibblers. So that makes it easier too. But it really, for us, goes back to what our founding principle was. Our founder, Billy Ingram, believed every family, no matter their income level, deserved to have a hot, tasty, affordable meal out at least one night a week. And so that foundation, I think, keeps us true to making sure the value comes through, usually through bigger packages that can be shared in a family.
How did the Valentine's Day and wedding come about?
It's when White Castle became Love Castle. Oh, the question was, how did Valentine's Day and weddings at White Castle come about? And it's because White Castle became Love Castle those days. But no, like a lot of the best ideas we've had on the restaurant and the packaged goods side of the business, the idea for Valentine's Day came from a team member in Minneapolis who thought it'd be fun to take reservations for Valentine's Day. So that was in 1993. And then last year, as you saw in the video, we had 31,500 reservations made through OpenTable. Fine white tablecloth dining. We do tableside ordering. Sometimes somebody shows up with a cello and sits in a corner and plays. You just never know what's going to happen. And then the weddings have just been a natural, fun thing. In fact, Cravers Hall of Famers, Drew Schmidt and Jamie West, who got engaged when they were inducted into the Hall of Fame, got married at a castle in Scottsdale earlier this year and were featured in People magazine. And the reason I was running a little bit late to meet up with Brad is they're in Ohio, and they were at the home office, sitting on the throne in our offices. So, but I think we're open to it and understand that whole idea earlier of how do you create a memorable moment. It doesn't have to be fancy. It just can be fun.
All right. What a gift. White Castle, one of the best brands in the world.